Hasn't been a census in Lebanon since 1938. If you take the Shias, the Palestinian refugees, the Syrian refugees, it's probably the majority of the people in Lebanon. And the Lebanese Sunnis, which is the majority of the Lebanese armed forces, are not going to go shoot their cousins, especially at a time where Israel is bombarding them, which only gives efficacy to the reason Hezbollah should exist to protect itself from Israel. So what's the answer? The answer has got to be underlying prosperity. When you have a sovereign nation like Iran, which is supporting a militia, you cannot get rid of that militia by killing them. It's the same philosophy in each country. You need to start with prosperity from the individual to the family to the tribe to the community. And this is why my humble opinion, and I think my boss's opinion, is left to the region. The Abraham Accords eventually is the answer, and Syria is an experiment alongside of Turkey, who is allowing them to do it. Turkey, which happens to be the only real economy in the middle of this very complicated region. It's a real nation. People, resources, army. We talk about NATO being the second largest supporter of NATO. It is, but it's also one of our most relevant and important engines now when we go to this just-in-case philosophy of saying, well, law of the seas didn't work very well, or the Straits of Hormuz. We also have the Straits of Dardanelles. So the alliance of saying, how do you marry these convergent points of view? It has to be prosperity. It has to be alignment of interests where the individual is going to be better. And giving up points of view in religion, let everybody have their own religion. Let them have their point of view. It's just not happening. And I have great respect. President Erdogan is an amazing leader, and Netanyahu is doing what he thinks is best for his country. This part of the world respects only one thing: power. And if you don't reflect power, if you reflect weakness, you are on your heels. Syria is a great example of that. Why is Syria working? Because you have a powerful, strong, courageous leader that people may have not agreed with what the points of view were in the past, but they see him leading someplace. President Erdogan, the same way. So just in time goes to just in case. Just in case, everything comes through Turkey and Syria. Everything. Everything. Fiber optics. We're talking about Azerbaijan and Armenia, and what could that passageway be? What is flowing anymore? Oil, gas, information, data, materials. Where does it go? How does it go? So Israel aligned with Turkey, like Israel aligned with Abu Dhabi, like Saudi Arabia could be aligned with Israel. And for the prosperity of the Israeli people, to me, that's the answer. So I think this rhetoric is going to go away. Turkey is not a country to be messed with. I mean, you can take the Gulf, and by the way, the Gulf countries are so good, and these beneficial monarchies worked. If you looked at the region, and again, I'll be criticized for saying this because it's anti-democratic, the only thing that's worked, the only thing, are these powerful leadership regimes, either benevolent monarchies, a kind of a monarchical republic. Prosperity at the end, Israel aligning its interests with the Gulf, with these strong civilizations. I mean, Syria is one of the oldest civilizations in the world. It lived for centuries with Jews, Muslims, Christians living side by side. Never an issue. Nobody has an issue with Jews. And I've had this conversation, by the way, with the Israelis of saying, look, tactically, I understand what you're doing. I'm a farmer on the field. My boss owns the field. But saying tactically, you may be doing the right thing. So the answer has got to be alignment of prosperity. The Abraham Accords, what Jared Kushner and President Trump invented in the first term, honestly, after struggling through all this with everybody, having great respect for everybody's opinion, it's the only answer. Otherwise, we're going to live in an abyss. Yeah. So I can't tell you where the U.S. stands. I can get my boss on the phone. He can tell you where the U.S. stands. I can tell you what my personal opinion is. The smartest thing that Israel could do is to entice and embrace Turkey to enter that forum, exactly as you say. Why? For the same reasons that one of the best things that happened in the U.S.'s intervention on Gaza was that Turkey had not declared Hamas a foreign terrorist organization. Do we have military prowess in Iran? No question. Is the president right when he said he's won the war? 1,000%. We have air dominance. We have sea dominance. We have land dominance. What we don't have is the hearts and souls of the people, but we have absolute dominance in that effect. But as we move through these pieces, having the ability to speak, we only had two places that we could intervene and have a conversation with Hamas. One was Qatar, the other was Turkey. It could have never happened had they agreed with us that Hamas was a foreign terrorist organization and you have to exclude them. If you invited Turkey into that milieu, they would help avoiding what's happening now, which is atrocities, violations. They can speak the language. So my personal opinion, which I've been consistent with Israel, is inclusion is the only answer. Exclusion is short-term. It's tactical. So that if you take from December 8th forward, Syria under the al-Shara regime has never fired a shot at Israel. Quite the opposite. President al-Shara has said time and time again, there are no issues with Israel. We don't want an adversarial issue with Israel. We don't want to be at war with Israel. We want to work towards a non-aggression agreement and a normalization agreement. So at the beginning, if you remember the El Suwaida incidents, which were very, very difficult at the beginning of the al-Shara regime, led the Israelis to come across the border to protect the newfound Israeli cousins who were Druze. Netanyahu was very clear on all of his words that after October 7th, everything has changed. He doesn't care about borders. He doesn't care about boundaries. He doesn't care about the 67 borderline. He doesn't care about the 74 borderline. He doesn't care about the December 8th line. Syria was brilliant in not engaging in that fight. But in all of these instances, we're dealing with 5 countries on 5 borders, 2 seas, and in the midst we have a war. So it's a timeout from these conversations. We'll get there. My bet is we'll get to a non-aggression and normalization agreement with Syria sooner than Lebanon. I think the brilliance of what happened yesterday is it stopped senseless killing. And President Trump and Secretary Rubio stepping in strongly with Israel and saying we need a timeout. Not the definition of all the architecture around that, what that timeout could be, because there's 2 people missing from that table, Hezbollah and Iran. So what happened was a step in the right direction. Now the real work, look, President Aoun, Nouaf Salam, even Nabi Berri, it's the best set of leaders, in my humble opinion. I'm Lebanese, so I think I can criticize or applaud them. It's the best set of leaders we've had, but we need a path with Hezbollah. And the path has to be not killing Hezbollah.